The soft glow of living room lamp cast a warm environment. Yun was sitting in the lounge with her laptop open in front of her. She followed her brows in concentration as she scrolled through the job listing, her pen tapping against her lips. Working on his laptop, she was determined to find a job that would not only utilize her qualification but also keep her engaged. Jungkook gazed flicker towards her from time to time, a small smile playing at the corner of his lips as he watched her deep in thoughts. Her pen tip paused between her lips as she chewed on it absent-mindedly, a habit she had when she was lost in concentration. You finding anything interesting? But I'm hopeful there are many opportunities out there. I just need to find the right fit. Well, if you need any help, just let me know. She smiled, focusing back on her work, but Jungkook's eyes were fixed on her. By the way, I was thinking, why do you need a job anyway? He asked. I mean, I earn decent amount of money, enough for both of us and everything we need. I know that, but it's not just about the money, she explained. I get bored easily at home and I don't want to become lazy sitting around all day. I want to have something, a reason to get up and do something meaningful. And besides, I have no reason to stay at home all day when I have skills and qualification that I can put good use to. As she finished speaking, Jungkook reached out his fingers gently wrapping around the pen that she was chewing on. He smiled and pulled it from her mouth, his eyes meeting hers. So you don't have a reason, huh? She mused. He mused, twirling the pen between his fingers. Do you want me to give you a reason to stay at home? She bit her lips, feeling the warmth rushing to her cheeks, and she snatched her pen away from him, holding it tightly. A nervous chuckle escaping her lips as she placed it back between her teeth, attempting to hide a flustered state. Nice try, she muttered. But I think I'll stick to finding a job for now. He chuckled at her flustered state. Fair enough. And he focused on his work. By the way, what do you want for dinner? I don't know what to make. I don't know. He simply shrugged. Ash, you are of no help. Aren't you hungry? Yeah, I am, but what about eating outside him? What do you think? Ina smiled. That sounds like a plan. Okay, then let's go. Jungkook replied, his own laptop closing with a decisive clip. Yoon looked up in surprise as he abruptly stood up, her fingers still lingering on her keyboard. Wait, give me 5 minutes more. I need to go through this one last job. She started, but Jungkook interrupted her by taking her laptop out of her lap and closing it gently. You can do it later too, he insisted. You look at him in disbelief. That's not fair, she protested. Everything is fair when you are hungry. Now let's go, madam, he said, insisting her on her feet, and she finally gave in as he followed him inside the bedroom to get ready. Yun was standing before the mirror in their bedroom, adjusting her suit, smoothing down the fabric with the trembling hands. Her white shirt was neatly tucked into a knee-length skirt, its skin color complementing her complexion. With her hair pulled back into a tidy ponytail, she wanted to look decent and professional despite the nervous fluttering in her stomach. She applied a final touch of lip gloss and she checked her reflection one last time. This was her first interview as she was feeling quite nervous about it. Jungkook was observing her every moment just like he do, silently just watch her as he make his style. Standing behind her, he adjusted it and then walked towards his wife, someone quite nervous on their first day. A little, not much, she said, reassuring him as well as herself, but he better not though. They were not married too long ago. Him being quite observant helped him to look more clear to his surrounding, and he knew how to read body language. And do you want a little motivation speech? He spoke, placing his both hands on her shoulder, his touch warm and reassuring as he turned her around to face him. She looked up at him, her nerves momentarily forgotten as she met his gaze. If that works, she replied. I have no idea how motivational speaks work. His hands moved to her shirt button, his touch deliberate as he adjusted her attire. First, you need to relax. Let your shoulder drop. You did your best, Ian. Interviews are not that difficult. You just have to believe in your skills and trust yourself. He continued, his fingers tracing the contour of her lips, coaxing them into a smile. Be confident. Don't let anyone know you're nervous inside. She couldn't help but giggle at his efforts, feeling the knot of anxiety in her chest begin to unravel under his gentle touch. He leaned forward to press a kiss to her forehead. You will do your best, he said softly. She felt herself surrendering to his reassurance, her knitted brows smoothed out her features, softening into a smile as she looked up at him. "Thank you, I'm already feeling better," she said, and smiled softly. His mobile rang, suddenly interrupting their moment. His hand dropped from her shoulder as he walked over to pick up his phone, a faint frown causing his features. "Oh God," he muttered. You look up at him. "What happened?" she asked, concerned, raising her voice. "Nothing, just another meeting out of the city," he explained, though there was a hint of frustration in his voice. She couldn't help but scrunch her nose at that. "Do your boss have no better employees other than you? They keep sending you out of the city. It's like fourth time in this month." "Another point to never work as someone's secretary," he agreed with a wry smile. You nervously smiled back, feeling a pang of guilt for adding to his stress. She knew how much he juggled with his work responsibilities, and she didn't want to burden him with her own worries. "So, are you suggesting that I should not give this interview?" His expression softened as he turned to face her. "No, of course not. I was just saying you shouldn't let this stop you from what you wanted to achieve." You nodded. "By the way, for how many days you have to go?" 2 days. "I will try to get back early if that's possible," she said, and turned around to grab her bag. She felt him pulling her into his embrace, surprised by the sudden gesture. She leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his embrace enveloping her. "I'll be back quickly, don't be upset," he muttered, his voice soft against her ear. She smiled. "I know, and who said I'm upset? I'm happy that I will get the whole house to myself." Jungkook chuckled at her response, his arms tightening around her. "You are really something. Do you want me to pack your things? We will have time." He shook his head gently before releasing her from his hold. "Nah, I will do it myself." She nodded in understanding, knowing that Jungkook preferred to handle things on his own. With a final squeeze of his hand, she watched as he made his way to closet to pack things. Yun sat at the dining table, picking at her food with little appetite. The quietness of the empty house made her feel even lonelier. She didn't like being alone, especially after a tiring day. Her interview had gone well, and now all she could do is wait for the call that would do us wait whether she had been selected or rejected. It was nerve-wracking, but she tried to push aside her worries and focus on the present. Even though she wanted to be with Jungkook, she knew she had to spend next 2 days alone while he was working. Their marriage was arranged by her mother. She didn't want to get married, but Jungkook's mother agreed to, so did Jungkook. She felt like she didn't have choice. She was angry that she didn't have many choices. She can't even choose about her life decision. But over time, she began to see Jungkook's kindness, patience, and care. They both were strangers until the wedding. She even denied to get to know him before marriage because she knew no matter what her mother would get married. But when he had shown himself to a caring and supporting partner, helping her see that not all the marriages were unhappy, his nature changed her views on marriage, that good people do exist in this world. She sighed, getting up from the place, collecting the dirty dishes. She began to wash them, her thoughts wandering about how much her life had changed just in 4 months of marrying him, not in one way but in so many ways. Glancing at the clock, Yun realized she was feeling restless without him around. Normally by this time he would have been back from work and they would have been enjoying each other's company, chatting about their day. Lost in her thoughts, she found herself walking down the hallway towards a glass door at the end. It led to the basement, a place she had never, full of old stuff that needed to be organized. But he never seemed to find time for it. Standing in front of the glass door, curiosity got the best of her. She wondered what was down there. With a hesitant hand, she turned the knob and the door creaked open, revealing the darkness. Wow, Jungkook was not kidding when he said that this place needed a lot of cleaning. She muttered to herself, but do I really want to go in there? I don't exactly have fondness of darkness, creepy places. She chewed on her button lips nervously. Well, maybe I should give it a try, she reasoned aloud, trying to muster up her courage. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It's not like they're going to be a ghost or something down there. Come on, Yoon, you're not a kid anymore. She scolded herself for her irrational thoughts. She shook her head and encouraged herself. You can do this, just take it one step at a time. As she stepped down, her first instinct was to open the light of basement. She flicked on the basement lights, revealing dust covered her everything. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling and assorted items cluttered too. This is worse than I expected, she muttered to herself, disappointed evident in her voice. Maybe I should just head back upstairs before I end up stuck down here forever. Her dislike of darkness nagged at her, urged her to retreat to well-lit upstairs, but before she could turn away, something caught her attention. A framed picture nestled among the mess. Her curiosity got the best of her as she approached and reached for it. Dusting off the frame, she was surprised that she found a drawing clearly done by Jungkook with his name scrawled at the bottom. A wave of nostalgia washed over her as she studied the simple sketches, a house, a car, and a smiling stick figure's family. She couldn't help but smile at the innocence captured in Jungkook's childhood drawings. Suddenly, the basement bulb flickered and then went out completely. Panic surged through her veins as darkness enveloped her, her heart pounding in her chest. She stumbled backward, her hand trembling as she fumbled for the light switches. But before she could find it, she heard the sound of basement door slamming shut behind her, sealing her inside. Her breath caught in her throat as she froze in her place, the silence of the basement pressing in her from all the sides. She felt her breath quicken, her chest tightening with fear. "Jungkook," she called out, her voice trembling with urgency. Her hands shook as she tried to reach for the doorknob, her fingers scrabbling desperately against the cold metal. "Open, open, open," she muttered frantically, but the door remained stubbornly closed. Memories flashed before her eyes of being locked in a dark room as a child, her 13 years old self desperately trying to open the door of the basement. "Jungkook," she screamed, her voice hoarse and desperate, echoing off the walls of the basement, but there was no response, no reassuring presence to calm her racing heart. Tears pricked at the corner of her eyes as she struggled to control her breathing, to push back the suffocating weight of her panic. She knew Jungkook was out of city, unreachable, and unable to come to save her. "You are worthless," she heard the voice taunting. "No one will ever love you. You're nothing but a burden." She felt her body begin to tremble, violent shivers racking her frame as a bead of sweat formed on her brow. "No, no, no," she whimpered, her voice barely audible over the cacophony of her own thoughts. "Please make it stop. I can't do this anymore." Frantically, she gasped at the doorknob, her hands shaking with the efforts of trying to escape. But the door remained stubbornly closed, refusing to yield to her desperate pleas. "Mama, don't leave me alone here," she pleaded, the words spilling from her mouth in a desperate rush. "I won't do it again, I promise." She heard the voices in her ear and pressed both of her hands against her ears as if trying to block out the voices. Her body back against the wall, she slid slowly down, her body trembling with the efforts of her trying to control the rising panic, tears streaming down her cheeks unchecked, mingling with the sweat on her brows as she fought to regain control of her racing thoughts. "Mama, please," she sobbed, her voice raw with emotions. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." Her words dissolved into a choke sob as she struggled to cope up with the flood of memories and emotion overwhelming her. Her each breath came in rigid gasps, her body shaking uncontrollably as she fought to keep herself together. But as the darkness closed in, it's becoming suffocating. She felt herself losing the battle to stay awake. Her vision blurred, her consciousness slipping away. With one last desperate gasp, she sank against the wall, her body going limp. The world faded into the darkness as she lost the consciousness, swallowed by the abyss. Ian eyelids fluttered open, slowly, her vision blurred and disoriented. She tried to move, but her body felt heavy and unresponsive, as if weighed down by an invisible force. Panic surged within her as she tried. The memories of her ordeal in the basement flooded back into her consciousness. Her heart quickened its pace as she struggled to make sense of her surroundings. The darkness enveloped her, pressing in all sides, and she instinctively tried to move to escape the confines of her imaginary prison. But then she felt it, a gentle, reassuring movement beside her. It was then she became acutely aware of her warmth enveloping her, the comforting presence of another. Confusion and relief washed over her in equal measure, and she realized she was lying on a bed wrapped securely in someone else. She felt a sense of peace wash over him, knowing that she was safe, loved, and not alone. her hand trembling slightly as she reached out to interlace her finger with his, seeking comfort in his touch. But before she could fully grasp his hand, his eyes fluttered open, his gaze locking onto hers, and she saw the surprise flickering on his face. "You woke up," he breathed as he quickly pulled her into his embrace. A small smile tugged at her lips as she felt his hands gently checking her temperature, his touch warm and comforting against her skin. "I'm fine, Jungkook," she reassured him, her voice soft. His brow furrowed in concern as he looked into her eyes, searching for any sign of distress. "Why are you smiling?" he asked. "I mean, it's good that you are smiling, but are you okay?" His smile widened at that. "I'm okay, really," she reassured him, her heart swelling with love for the man who cared for her so deeply. He leaned in to press a kiss on her forehead. His expression softened at her words, a reveal sigh escaping his lips as he peppered her cheek with kisses again and again. "You scared me." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to scare you." "Don't apologize. I'm just glad you're awake now. That's all that matters." He gently brushed a strand of hair away from her face, his eyes filled with concern as he continued to monitor her condition. "It looked like your fever has lessened." Her forehead brows in confusion. "I had a fever." Jungkook nodded, his expression somber. "Yes," he replied, his gaze never leaving hers. "You were burning up when I found you." Her eyes widened in shock as she processed his words. "How long I was knocked out?" He hesitated for a moment before responding. "For almost a day," he admitted. "Maybe more." She nodded her head and Jungkook kissed her forehead again. "I'm sorry I couldn't get time to call you. Only if I was not busy and called you at least one time, I could have rescued you earlier. It's not your fault." Still, she hid her face in his chest, momentarily forgetting that he didn't have to feel guilty about it. They lay there in each other's embrace until Jungkook broke the silence. "What happened during that time?" he asked gently. "Do you want to talk about it?" She began, her voice faltering. She never told about her childhood or past because she didn't find it necessary. It was a period of time, and she doesn't want to remind it again. His brow furrowed in concentration. His brow furrowed in concern as he reached out to cup her cheeks gently. "You don't have to tell me if you're not ready," he said softly, "but I want you to know that I'm here for you no matter what." "Thank you." She knew she was lucky to have him by her side.